Hello, everyone. Welcome. This has been a while since I have been live in our creative women's community. So I just wanted to say happy day, good afternoon, great morning, wherever you are in the world. So I did not schedule a specific time because of the simple fact that, I'm still in school right now, don't have my break. See my headphones. Um, I won't start my break until next week. So I do still have an assignment that I have to do. And I have an actual dinner with our cohort and instructors with Syracuse this evening. So I wanted to do this before getting myself ready and prepared because right now it's 2:45. So I have about an hour and a half before I start getting dressed. So I may not be able to see you if you have any comments or whatever. So I just want to say hello. And then if you have a comment and you don't accept StreamYard, then I'll have to comment later on if I don't see it in here. Just some of the rules with Facebook and the StreamYard and other um, tools for live streaming. So today is the intro, okay? Intro for our 7-day self-care series, which is going to be self-care activated. Okay. So it's going to be 7 days. Today's the intro, and then we will conclude on Sunday. All right. So today I wanted to just do an intro for those that are new to the community or have not seen me in a while because you may have just inactivated your account for a little bit or just been busy with work, doing business, or just starting something new or just taking a break from social media altogether. I am Lanita Cornett, your success strategist and well-being coach and mentor. And welcome again to our Creatives Women community. And today I will be talking about self-care. This is the intro. So I am really good when it comes to acronyms, and I feel like acronyms are very powerful when it comes to keywords because the keywords have context behind it to where it helps you, it facilitates in the process to recall your experience as well as learning new information or something that may connect just through the conversation or just through notes or key things that I may say. And this, I don't want this to last no more than 20 minutes or less because this is the intro. And for those that have not been part of any series that I have done before, if you go to the events section, I've actually done the self-love series 30-day challenge before. I've done it. I think I've done it like twice. Um, I want to do something like that again, but it goes back to receiving feedback from our community members. If you don't give me feedback, I'm not doing it. And I'll do it somewhere else. I'll do it on Clubhouse, or I'll do it on Wisdom, the Wisdom app, or I'll do it on another community. But if I don't receive the feedback that tells me you don't want it or you're not interested, okay? And so I say that to you as well for those that are exploring entrepreneurship or starting. Market research is key. If something's not working, it doesn't mean that it's not working. It's just the audience. And so I know and I am aware that our audience has changed several times based on the topics that have changed in the community. So some members may not be interested anymore in the self-care strategies to include content marketing. However, if you are a new entrepreneur or if you have been in business starting a new business startup or you want to scale in business, content marketing is imperative when it comes to what we do now. But I wanted to create this self-care series because I feel like it's important for us as entrepreneurs, as women in business, as leaders, okay? Leaders, meaning you're a leader in your family, you're a leader in your business, you're a leader in your organization, no matter if it's an organization for profit or if it's a nonprofit. So I wanted to just emphasize that. That's one of the reasons why, even though we have changes, it's still relevant with the self-care strategies and content marketing when it comes to what you do in your business, okay, or organization. So what I wanted to do for the intro is give you some keys for the intro for self-care and how it relates to for you staying aligned. And what I mean by aligned is just knowing who you are, knowing your values, knowing your belief system, and knowing what it is that you want out of life, your heart desires, and actually focusing on that and staying on that path for that. Right. And so with self care is very broad. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the 7-day series, just to go over different perspectives when it comes to self care, because it goes beyond the manicures, it goes beyond the manicures. Rest is so needed when it comes to our journey and what we do in leadership and in business. And this was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it. So the keys that I want to talk about, we're going to talk briefly about commitment. We're going to talk about connection. We're going to talk about conscious choices and consistency. And this is why it's so important to understand when it comes to self-care. I talk a lot about self-care on my Instagram business page, and I do it for a reason, because it's part of what I do. It's part of my niche when it comes to well-being. But I feel like it's important to share a little bit of that here in our community, because I haven't done much of that when it comes to sharing a lot with the self-care based on the direction of our community. So the first thing I want to talk about for the introduction of the 7-day self-care series is, when it comes to self-care, self-care is going to be defined differently for all of us. And so what that means for me may not be the same thing for you, but I look at self-care as it's a tool, it's a behavior, it's a practice where I show respect to myself by taking care of myself, and taking care of myself in every area of my life. So not just in my career, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to money management, when it comes to my mental health, when it comes to my fitness, when it comes to my how I'm feeling, my expression, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to what I value, when it comes to not having, when I get rejected, what do I do in that? How do I reframe that? My life lessons when I make mistakes, when I've had failures, because I call the failures life lessons, failing forward and continuing to move on and not being stagnant. Those type things. When it comes to my spiritual growth, what do I need right now? I don't have a church home right now, but what can I do to connect to God in a different way versus how I used to? Instead of being in a church home, how can I connect in a different way, which I do through prayer, meditation, inspirational words. I have spiritual leaders that I connect with, and have those connections and have that community, have those conversations, different conversations that are not something that you, like the small talk that you have when you're meeting someone on social media, or when you're meeting someone for the first time at an event or something like that. I'm talking about meaningful conversations to where a light bulb goes off or you get a new perspective. Those are the type things when it comes to self-care, and how that facilitates us and our growth and our personal development and growth, to include professional. So personal and professional development growth, how that helps in that process. How does that build us as women leaders, and actually building that connection with others through relationships? But it first starts with us, how we relate to ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we view and see our higher source. My higher source is God. Everyone has a different higher source. Mine is God. I am a Christian, so I do believe in Jesus, but I don't push that on anyone. However, I have other modalities. There's other modalities that I practice. Meditation is one of those. Not everyone that's a Christian is going to practice meditation, but that's what I practice. I practice positive psychology, reframing through thought work that helps with my mental health, that helps with my emotional well-being. So I just wanted to give you those type things there when it comes to that. So for the first thing when it comes to commitment is just simple. What do you want to do when it comes to your self-care? And how, what is the frequency? What do you want to do? Identify those things, put a name on it, so that it's specific for you. So if your self-care may change in a few months. But the thing is being committed, saying, yes, I will do this. And I look at it like a relationship. So no matter if you're married or if you're single or if you're in an intimate relationship with one person or your relationship with God or higher source, what that looks like for you, right? When you're committed, you are going to stay the course. You're not going to stop. You're going to continue to communicate. You're going to continue to express yourself. You're going to continue to see what is going on. What can I do to change what's going on or the relationship or how I'm feeling? What am I not saying? I'm just giving you the example when it comes to a relationship. The same thing with a relationship, with a marriage. You are committed. And it's the same way when it comes to your self-care. You have to make that decision and stick to it. No matter what goes on around you, is respecting what you put forth for you, right? Putting yourself as a priority. That doesn't mean being self-centered. It means focusing on what it is that you need and what your heart desires instead of putting it last. And I say that because I used to do it all the time. Everything I wanted to do, I focused on everybody else first. And then what I wanted was like an afterthought. Once I do this for them, then I'll focus on me. But sometimes that doesn't happen for some people. When is that going to happen? Will it ever happen? So being honest with yourself, and it may not be easy in the beginning, but it's like standing your ground and saying, this is what I will do for me, and sticking to it and giving yourself grace in the process. Okay. That's what relationships do. So having a relationship with yourself is foremost the first thing when it comes to self-care. So being committed for that. The next thing when it comes to this self-care journey, right, is going to be connection. And it's kind of similar to what I mentioned about relationships. So connection truly is having a bond, right? When you have a bond with someone, a relationship, what kind of relationship do you have for yourself? What relationship do you have with others? What relationship do you have with God, higher source? So when it comes to your self-care, it's really honoring you, honoring yourself. And how do you honor yourself? You identify those things that are most important to you. What is your value system? Honoring yourself is actually speaking out loud what those things are for you. And when it goes back to commitment, honoring yourself in that process. So what are the things that you hold dear to, what that you value? And sometimes, again, you got to put a name to it, because that's where we build context, when we actually have a name to it. And then we connect the dots with other things that happen or relates to us. And then that's how we make other decisions, right? So identify what are those things that matter the most to you right now in your life, your value system. So examples could be family. It could be marriage, your spiritual growth, you actually wanting to start a business, wanting the best for your family, so you want to do that. Relationships, those type things. What to you, for you, what do you value? Okay, and putting a name on it. And if you have to write it out and put it on a wall so you can see it every day, so you can remind yourself, this helps you in your process when you're setting boundaries. Okay, so we said commitment, connection. The next one is conscious choices. So everything that I say, it builds on each other. So with the conscious choices, it's being intentional. Being intentional with your words, with your expression, with what you see, with your gates, what you hear. Being intentional with that, so that creates the meaningfulness in your life. It creates the purpose, so that you're not doing the busy work. So all this stuff connects, is what, I want to make sure that you understand why I'm putting all this out for the intro, because every day is going to connect, and then I'll go deeper for each one. And the reason why I bring up busy work, because I've done it so many years in my career in the military, and I've done it in my personal life. I've done it in business. And so what I would do is I would do things to please people so that I could build a relationship, so that I won't disappoint them, so they can count on me. But then really it was more of a codependency that I had to heal from, that I didn't realize that I had back then. But I was in perfectionism too. And so perfectionism is something that I've been throughout my childhood, but I didn't go through the healing process until in my late 30s, because I didn't realize that was my survival mode, what I did throughout the military to keep me going. And at the time, it got things done, but when I look back on it, it was toxic productivity, but it worked for me because of the environments that I was in. So I'm not saying that there's gonna be times where you're gonna do things that you don't want to do, but at that time it was consistent. So I've been in the military 26 years. It was consistent. So imagine yourself doing that process for over 20 years and what it does to your body. So that's why I'm very adamant when it comes to talking about self-care and how important it is for us as women, because the longer that we live on this earth and we have breath, if we're not taking care of our mind, body, and spirit, we're going to deteriorate a lot sooner than we want to. And it'll be internal, where we have the bitterness, where we have the resentment. And then all of that anger is going to hold in our bodies to where it creates disease. So I feel like it's important for me. I owe it to you, to myself, as a reminder to always keep in mind it's important for us to constantly think about what are those things that we're doing that's intentional or that's not intentional. Now, don't get me wrong, we are not perfect. All of us have flaws. Give yourself grace. However, just continue to pay attention to the trend and the pattern. If it's something that you're continuing to do on a continual basis, you need to take a step back and say, okay, what can I learn from this, and how can I change this for my health, right? So I just wanted to just think about those things with conscious choices. And conscious choices, again, it goes back to all your gates. It goes back to, what are you listening to? What are you consuming? For your ears, your eyes, your feelings. And I don't want to say, does it feel good to you? But we have to think about that, because sometimes when we say it feels good to you, it might be something that you don't need, but you desire it and you want it, and then it becomes something that is like an addiction. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something that is good for your mind, body, and spirit, that nourishes you, that helps you grow, that helps you learn, that helps you create, that helps you be the leader that you desire to be in your family, for you to speak up for yourself, for you to ask for the help that you need, to build the confidence so that you are competent in the things that you do, and not fearing that someone's going to see you as an imposter. So that's why I bring that up. So another thing for the conscious choices, just it goes back to what I just said here. It creates meaningful moments that matter and connects. Okay, so if we look at the definition of create, it says causing something to happen as a result of one's action. So that goes back to conscious choices. What are we doing daily that we want to create, that we desire to create, that we want in our life, that we manifest because we're open to receiving? Okay. Once we're ready to do that, that's where the creation happens, right? So once that happens, then you have the consistency. And then that's where it's not this, I have to do this. It's no, okay, I have this schedule. This is my routine. Then it's something that it's not even a routine anymore. It's a routine, but it's not something that you have that's a reminder for you to do, because you already know that's what you need, that you desire to do. And so based on your lifestyle and what you do, you may have to time block certain things, but that is your time. That's like your appointment, to where you're like, you're not going to say, I'm not going to do this. You're going to actually do it. So that's where the consistency comes into, where there's constant action, intentional, and then you have the habits that happen. When the habits happens, of course, you have the results, but the results are all in your favor. Even if you may have um, small progress, small progress is progress. It may be big progress, or it may be something that you have to change based on your situation. But taking action that's intentional, that aligns with your values, that aligns with your vision, that aligns with your goals, your life goals, and so forth. So that is what we're going to be talking about for this 7-day series, which is activated, self-care activated. But I wanted to actually talk about it from the acronym perspective so that you get an overview of what we're going to talk about as we get, as we go on throughout the week. And again, I really want to have a set time. I probably may be able to do that tomorrow. I didn't do it today because I didn't know exactly when I was going to do it because I have a dinner coming up. And so I was working on my schedule for schoolwork today. But I just want to say thank you for everyone that's in our community. Thank you for being an active member. For those that are active, for those that are inactive at the moment, life happens. I understand. Just stay on your grind, whatever that is that you're doing, and focus on your self-care, self-love, both in harmony. If you have any questions based on, I had to cut that off, based on this week's series, please let me know. You can place the comments in the chat, and then I will respond back to you. Again, I will go and give you the names of do a recap of the 4 C's of alignment for self-activation. You have commitment, you have connection, you have conscious choices, and you have consistency. One of the things I wanted to make note of too, because this is a really important message here that I made a note of when it comes to the connection piece. And it's about relationships again. So just think about this as a relationship, because it's a relationship with yourself, God, and others, right? When you are in a relationship, in order for you to move forward, trust has to be there. If there's no trust, then you're just I don't know what you're doing in the relationship. Sometimes you're just the individual's not serving you, or whatever it is that you're doing. It could be a life personal relationship, or it could be a professional relationship. If it's not going anywhere, you're going to make a decision. You're either going to continue with the relationship, or you're going to end it. Okay. So when we're talking about trust is where you're opening yourself up to receiving from the individual. So you're opening to receive the constructive criticism. They may have things to tell you to help you along your journey, or they may have a misunderstanding and want to talk to you about it. That's where you have the trust, where the trust comes in, where you could talk about it and you can express yourself without the fear of judgment, right? We have to realize that for ourselves when it comes to self-care and the connection. Again, it starts with us first before we're dealing with others. So when it comes to the self-care, do you trust yourself? Do you trust yourself enough to be vulnerable to where you can express how you feel if you looked yourself in the mirror and express how you felt about yourself or how you're doing? So I didn't want to call it self-love because I've done the self-love challenges before, but I feel like it's in harmony with each other. So some of the stuff that I will talk about is self-love, but again, it goes back to the self-care, because if you don't care for yourself, you're not showing love to yourself, right? You're not respecting yourself. And so that's one of the reasons why I put it together. I didn't want to separate the two because I feel like they work together in harmony. So that's why it's self-care activated. So thank you for being here. I'm good on time, less than 30 minutes. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat or in the comments. Love you all, and I will talk to you soon. See you in the community.